Well, I'm so delighted to have you here today, Kim. Kim Molloy, I just met her recently, and I was just privileged to interview her daughter, who's an amazing, wonderful woman herself, Caroline, and that's how we met. And before I go further, Kim, I'm going to put everything in the show notes as to who you are, but perhaps for those listening and trying to get a context for why should I be talking to or listening to Raju and Kim, well, maybe you could just give a few words about it to set the context.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It is a true honor, and I really appreciate that. So, but I am a real estate agent in Hilton Head, South Carolina. I am a mother of three, and I also have a podcast of my own called If You Can, I Can, that is centered around inspiring people. I think we all have a story of interest to somebody else, and it's important to hear other stories of inspiration or triumph or whatever it may be. And so I love doing that. That is just a passion. So.
Well, then it puts me, I'm a little nervous now, Kim, because you're a pro at this, and I mean, I've just been at it for a year or so. But I want to ask you. I know when you and I were chatting, you said that you do this work in real estate, which is not that long ago. You've lived here almost 30 years on this beautiful island, which is one of my very happy places. That you found a passion for serving through this important time in their life. I suppose you mean people making a purchase or a sale of a house. Is that what you mean by that?
I do. I mean, if you really think about it, it is a big event in somebody's life, whether it's a primary home or it's a vacation home, investment property, no matter what it is, it's somebody taking their hard-earned money and putting it in an asset. And, I get to help them through that process, and I don't take that lightly. I really consider it a privilege, and I get to meet so many wonderful people in the process.
Well, that's a mission. I think you've just started this. When did you start your podcast, if you will?
Actually, my first one was recorded in October of 2020. So, so not that long ago, and still,
you got us beat by a while. We started later on.
Well, you have more episodes than me, so you've been more consistent. So, the frenzy of real estate made me a little inconsistent for a bit, but I'm, dedicated to getting that back on track. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, awesome. So most of our audience consists, Kim, of people who are in business and leadership roles, etc. This movement that we began about 2 years ago is called Bold Conscious Leadership. Leadership. The podcast is called Bold Conscious Connections. So everything we kind of do has to do with bold and conscious, but to us, leadership is about personal leadership. It isn't about working in a job, or a mother like you is a leader. It has nothing to do with the work you do per se, but it's your expression of the work you do. So in that way, I know that that's kind of the audience, and they would just love to hear stories. And I know, since you're a podcast guru yourself, you know that stories make everything. People remember the stories, right? That people have come on this platform, and we have an array of guests that have come through this podcast. Ranging from business people to, your daughter, for example, who was an inspiration. And so many more that come from all walks of life. And they seek to inspire. They seek to raise what we call the unity consciousness in the world, that everyone needs a connection. Everyone has the connection, but sometimes they don't, they're fearful of making that connection. So, and then the turning points in our lives are the ones that inspire, usually the challenges and the traumas of life bring us that deep desire to convey or express in other ways, so that people may have had similar stories, or maybe something that they felt, emotionally, that maybe they can learn from, or they can, maybe not make the same mistake, or whatever it may be. I know that you've had a few. So let's talk about what inspired you, not just to do the podcast, but what is it about, this turning point that you had? What were the 2, 3, 4 turning points in your life that caused you to move to the next level of not just growth, but depth?
Yeah.
Sorry for the long-winded question.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think, growth comes from being vulnerable and humble and getting to those low points that ultimately transform or take you to that higher level of growth. And gosh, I would say, there's been many points, right, throughout life. But the biggest turning point, I would say, is speaking to when Caroline was ill, and my daughter had Lyme disease, for the listeners to know. And it was a really difficult time. She was in her young 20s, and I had 2 teenage boys. And my husband was in a transitional time in his career. He had sold his company. He was going through some personal things, and it was just a really rough time. Sorry, get a little emotional.
No.
But anyway, so I, just really was spreading myself, trying to keep everybody afloat and be there for Caroline and figure out, Lyme disease is something that is very difficult to treat. And it's very, very expensive because most treatments at work are not covered by insurance, or at least that was what we experienced in her case. It may be different for others. Right. But anyways, so, that puts a huge financial burden because it's your child. You're willing to do, everything you can. And so at the time I was working, but I wasn't fully applying myself because I was trying to take care of everybody else. And I'm a big biker. I love to be outside. And I was on this bike ride one day and just really digging deep and asking myself, what if she can do all these hard things, so can I? What is it I need to do? And just really seeking, and I don't know, it just hit me, and I was, kind of struck with this catchphrase: if she can do it, I can do it. And I went on to Instagram, and I posted just a pretty picture of the water or whatever, and this long vulnerable post, because I think that there are many people, women in particular, that hit this age, 50s, whatever. Our kids are transitioning and our whole lives are transitioning a little bit. And it's kind of like you reach this point where you're like, what am I good at? Like what can I be doing that I'm not doing? Or all those different questions. At some point we all ask ourselves. So, and I just kind of put it all out there. And, with the tagline, if you can, I can. And I was really blown away by the feedback that I got. And most of it was through private messages, but from other women thanking me for opening up and, oh, I'm going through that too, and all those kinds of things. And I was like, wow, and it was kind of that moment of being vulnerable and seeing that you're not alone and you can inspire others. Sorry. So anyways, so I really started searching, like self-searching, kind of trying to figure out my strengths and my passions and what would really drive me, from the inside out kind of thing. And I just came across real estate. And I had thought about it in the past, but I just, there was just too many things going on. So, and so I decided to go to school, and throughout a lot of my life, I've always settled, just, that's good enough. That's good enough. That's good enough. And which many of us do. But deep down, we have a burning knowledge that like you could be doing more. So when when I decided to join, a brokerage, I really told myself, you are not settling. You are going to go where, you're going to feel filled up, which is how I landed where I am. And so, for me, it's been a blessing way beyond real estate. It's just been a blessing in the things that I get to do, the people that I meet, and beyond. So.
Wow. I mean, I'm getting emotional too. Obviously, this is your very personal story, and first of all, I honor you and thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that, because it is these vulnerable stories that make everyone at least sit up and say, "Hey, you're worth more. You're meant for more." Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've gone through this many times personally, so it's like I'm going through it again at this. It's my birthday week, and I'm still going through it now at this age. Well, thank you. So it's, it's got to be gut-wrenching. It's your child, and it was from what I understand, it was a delayed diagnosis of sorts, and then she went through many surgeries. We won't go through that, but anyway. So the point is that it's okay to be. We're all real people. Yeah. We're not just, every social media allows you to make believe stuff, and it's not. We're in a make believe world, and it takes a lot of humility. It takes a lot of courage, at the same time, to be able to share this. And now you're doing this in an open forum here too. So I appreciate that, and I hope whoever's listening to this or watching it knows that they're meant for more. Mm-hmm. They're far more capable than they've given themselves credit for. And no matter what the problem is in life, you are way more capable. And therefore don't dabble. I think you said you're all in right now, and not just real estate, because it's just what it gives you the exposure to the people that you meet and all that you can do to inspire. So yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I think, the more we get vulnerable or uncomfortable is the more that we realize all that we can do. So
oh my God, yeah, absolutely. And who we can be.
Right.
So as I said earlier, Kim, everything I do is bold and conscious, and I do my best to live boldly. It's scary.
Yeah.
We define bold as being ambitious, decisive, convinced, or have conviction. And the conventional ones are heart-centered and humble.
Yeah.
So you could say, well, how can you be humble and ambitious at the same time? Well, that's what we mean by bold. That's what I mean by bold. So you've expressed a story. You must have obviously done something to be bold. So is there anything else that you want to share that says, well, what does it mean to you to be bold? Forget my definition, but what is your definition?
For me, it means really always be seeking to learn, because if you are ambitious, then you're always wanting more, no matter what that is, more personal growth, more, more wealth, more this, more that. That's obviously individual. But for me, I am always seeking to learn. And whether it's in a personal growth way, and gosh, I have so much to learn. So that will, I will never be complete. I will never be complete there. I am an avid reader. So I'm, I just voraciously read books, and I gain so much from that. So I think I could put that in part of the category of being bold, because I'm very deliberate and intentional when I start my day. I begin with devotion, and then I read. I'm just kind of routine oriented in that way. And maybe that feeds into the boldness too, because I just have set standards for myself that I must do. And then the other thing would be never getting comfortable. If I'm comfortable, then I'm not growing. So I have to, consciously push myself to get uncomfortable in one way or another. So.
Well, you're talking my language. That's why we connected. I mean, it is in all growth and all depth. And I throw depth into growth as well, because, sometimes we have these superficial relationships with people, and then we miss the real depth, even with our children, even with our spouses, and then friends and family are, of course, another story. But, it is conscious, right? So the second word is conscious. So you kind of hit on it. What does conscious mean to you? And besides reading, is there any practice that you can share that allows you to stay centered, stay in that humble mode? Because learning is about being humble, right?
Absolutely.
Knowing that you don't know it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that that I do devotion every morning. So for me, the word in the Bible fills me up and keeps me humble. So that to me is my really grounding truth that I rely on every day. And that is something that I really have gotten deeper and deeper into in the last, say, 5 years, maybe. And it has been, for me, changed my life, given me strength, all of those things. So I'm very conscious about that, very intentional about that. And so that would probably, in addition to the books, but also I'm really trying now too, when I'm with, my family, to not be on my phone and be present, because it's very challenging, I think, today for people to be present. So.
Oh my goodness. God. Preaching to the choir. Oh my God. Stories galore about that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's hard, right? It's hard today.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, and everyone else's, you just multiplier effect. They're all connected to their devices. Right. And, to say, the rules are at the table, you do not bring your phone.
Yeah.
It's still, or it's in silent. Well, that's not good enough, because silent, still there is something going on.
Right.
And you're just literally there for, if it's a 20-minute dinner or something. It's just horrible that we're not actually fully present with all our senses.
And it's true. I love that you spoke to the multiplier effect, because that is so true, right? I mean, that I read the greatest book, Tribe of Millionaires. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it all speaks about all the different effects in our, the influencer effect, the accountability effect, the multiplier effect, and how all those things compound in our life and can lead us this way or that way, or, and just to your point, the multiplier effect, if everybody's in a room and somebody picks up their phone, well, then somebody else is going to pick up their phone, then somebody else is, and it's boom, no one's present.
Right. No one's present. And exactly right. Wow. So that's the truth of life. So I want to take you back and the fact that, when you talked about your turning point and the pivot to, I'm going to go all into this real estate. Can you take us, and that wasn't that long ago, right? Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. What was going on before that, where what does it mean that you were in that sort of comfort zone, and what was the emotional state then? Because it's a fairly significant transformation, I would say, that you've experienced.
That's really a good question. I would say part of it was fear-based, maybe. Part of it, just in that kind of level, I did this job and I did that job and, whatever. It was just like, making a contribution to the family, but I wanted to really be present to raise my kids. But, in hindsight, I look back now and I'm like, well, really, was that the best thing? I don't know. I don't know. I love my kids, and I'm glad I was with them during all that time. But Was it the best route? Who knows? I don't know. But what I do know is through all that time, I think deep down, I knew that I could be doing more. And I don't know, we just get in these cycles, right, in our minds where it's like we beat
Yes.
ourselves up and then, we're just, I don't know. I'm really not giving you a good answer because I don't know, it's.
Oh, I think you're hitting the nail on the head, actually, because you're describing that we are caught so much in the mind and the five senses game that because we're programmed to live a certain life a certain way and then acquire and then do all these things, and then boom, something happens in the midlife. It doesn't have to be 50, could be a little bit earlier too or later. So I'm a single parent, and I know I have newfound respect for women who leave aside the single women, but just even as a homemaker and just taking care of kids, it is very, very hard. It is very challenging.
Yeah.
Yes. And you have three. I mean, I have four, but I have like sets of two and two. And it was the last two, the younger two, they're amazing. It's just that I need to juggle so many different things to be able to do. And then I know a woman, a mother, does so much more. So for me, I don't know that you were meant to do that. Yeah. And I think you did that. And I think it's then other expressions are, because you're not just this or that.
Right.
I think that's where midlife comes in, because 0 to 18 for each child is a flash, right? Where they go away and then you only see them on holidays or whatever.
And they all go, they all kids have their ups and downs, their challenges, their triumphs, all those good things. And as a parent, we're only happy as our most unhappy kid. So, but when I think about another pivotal point, actually, when my youngest was in middle school, he was just, he was challenging when he was young. And I remember, always talking to him about, let's change this, or, just talking about things he could be doing different. But it struck me one day, I was like, well, if you want him to make changes, maybe you need to look at what you need to change about yourself. And so I was like, okay, what could I be doing different that would make me a better person? So that's when I actually went to Barnes & Noble and bought a devotion book and started setting my alarm about an hour before everybody woke up, and set that practice that I was going to do that every single day. And that really became something that, if you want to say, like a little daily habit that I added to my, every day, that has compounded over time to yield huge differences in my life. So.
Oh my God, I'm telling you, that's such a powerful statement. I mean, it doesn't matter, it's the Bible or whatever it is, right. You create a practice for yourself. Whoever's listening still to this is like, you've got to make it, there's all these little decisions we make in life, right? So if it's that little thing and you don't know what effect it's going to have, right. But if it feels that you are moving in that direction, then I think that's, just you got to stick to it.
It's one of those things where, and all these simple daily disciplines or intentions or whatever you want to call them, if you just keep doing it, they're easy to do, they're easy not to do, but if you just keep doing it every single day, you may not feel the reward in the first month or even the first 6 months, but if you keep doing it, it may yield something so big that you could never imagine in 3 years. You just have to keep doing the thing. Keep doing the thing.
Keep doing the thing. I couldn't have said it better, because I know the word discipline has its own connotations. Sure. Oh, no, I can't do that. Or so yes, it's just a little. I can't. What the word you just used was. It's an intention. Yes, it's an intention. Yeah. Set yourself an intention. And if your intention's not big enough, you're not going to change anything in life. But as a mother, it sounds like him, even though you may have felt like you were in a different cycle back then, and who knows what you did or didn't do, it doesn't matter because you're meant to be where you are. And it sounds like since you're already a natural teacher or a coach who wants to learn more, I mean, that was embedded in you probably way back when. You just maybe realize now that you're a learner and you read and you do all these things and you're absorbing more because you're fully into a different phase. So, I mean, I focus for my coaching primarily on midlife folks. And so this is such a common thing where I don't know how I'm going to deal with my spouse. I mean, it was different when the kids were home or when it's about to go and all these things. And what is my job, my purpose in life? So you just start getting into these, the same existential questions, right?
And
who am I? What am I here for? And what's my purpose?
Yeah. And I think one of your parts of being bold is heart-centered. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think that plays a huge role, right? Because the things that you care about, like figuring out what are those things you care about and being genuine about seeking to work in that direction and feed and serve the things that you care about. That plays a huge role.
So that's awesome because, we all say, well, what's the ideal job I have? What's the ideal thing I want to be doing where it allows me to express myself in these different ways? How did you go through it to pick real estate?
Yeah. So
I know this is real estate.
That's funny because funny question. I mean, simply because so many people get into real estate because they love looking at homes on Zillow, or they love, watching HGTV, and they love homes, and they love all those things. That was not the case for me. I literally never looked on Zillow. I have watched or had watched HGTV a few times, but I by no means was, a house junkie or anything of that nature. I got in it from a position of I like to serve people. I love networking, and I felt like I'm really good. I'm detail oriented and all these things, and I just kind of pulled all these attributes, which I won't sit here and name all these things about myself, but those were some key things, and I do have a good eye. So I mean, those were some key things that would help me be successful and fill me up at the same time, because I am serving people and I am networking and I am meeting people. I'm very people oriented. And so to me, that made the most sense. It also brought, if I did it well, a good financial return. And that was also something else I was seeking because, my family kind of needed it. So yeah.
Wow. I mean, the things we go through in life, right? To figure out, I mean, the strengths finder, the old, Myers-Briggs, I mean, any number of things like, who am I?
Yeah.
What am I good at?
Right.
Somebody has to tell us what are we good at, right? Some kind of, but yeah, it's, it can be complicated, or it can be, if your heart, as you were just saying, it's heart-centered. You know what your heart desires. It's already in you.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, there's nothing like motherhood to prepare you for about any career, where you're, doing something where you're serving others, because motherhood prepares you for that in a million different ways. So,
oh, for sure. Wow. As I said, I'm just totally dumbfounded because I was in the mother's role, or sort of mother's role.
Yeah, that's so, I mean, that's very difficult from the position where you stand. I mean, very difficult. So, yeah.
But it's, as I said, new admiration for the whole race of mothers in the world. It's just beautiful. It's like such a great thing. So they are capable of doing anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
They're the power. They have the power. Everybody has the power in it.
Everybody has the power.
We focus on the other thing.
I think,
exactly.
Obviously fathers play a huge role and are a great balance to, the mother role. I think the main difference is women, because or a lot of us, not all of us, but we just have that deep connection to our children on a
Mm-hmm.
different level, I think, in some ways than fathers. And so, and that is why fathers are so important, I think, too,
Mm-hmm.
because
Of course. Yeah.
it's a really good balance. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I'm not articulating very well what I'm trying to say, but I just think, it's a really great balance that can be there. And when you have the loss of a parent, or, a division or what have you, it definitely changes things. And it's very difficult for that parent who is left. And so trying to
Yeah.
fulfill all roles. And so I applaud you and admire you, and know that that's not easy. So.
Well, I mean, we all work through it to figure out whether it's hard or easy. Everything can be hard.
Right.
Everything can be easeful. I don't say easy, because easeful gives you that you take the pressure off, but you still work through the hurdles and all the challenges that are inevitable in every case. So there's so many questions I have. We could keep going and having a chat. But one thing I wanted to ask you is, I always say that, particularly in this sort of transition time that people go through in the midlife, they tend to lose focus. They tend to sort of miss the connection with their purpose, that they start, particularly men identify with their careers as everything. Women have a slightly different, obviously, sensibility. So that happens. And the third is, in all of that, is the lack of a community, the lack of a connection with others. So you feel loss of connection because things are shifting. I mean, losing a parent, for example, at our age is very, very normal. But it's still like, oh my God, my mother, how could I lose her? That sort of thing.
Right.
So in any of those transitions, these three things happen, or four things happen, loss of focus, connection with purpose, not feeling fulfilled in other ways. And then there is the community. I know you're very big on community. Can you speak to that as to, one, what, I know that you said networking, and you enjoy that part, and talking with people. And the other part of it is staying with a community that's sort of like-minded and holds you accountable, because families and friends can't do it, because it's a different, they know you very differently than you, and you're in a different expression that you're doing now in the next phase of your life. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I couldn't agree more that I think in this time of life, this middle-age time, things really are shifting and changing. And, if you kind of speak to all levels, fortunately, neither I nor my husband have lost parents yet. So we have all that intact, and we know that we're very blessed, and, we know someday that is coming, but for now, we're very fortunate in that way. And so I think even now we're trying to be more intentional about making time to visit our parents or whatnot. So that's one, that's one shift. Another would be when your kids are growing up and around, you tend to be around your kids' friends' parents, because you're all traveling in that same circle. And so now that, everyone's out of high school, college, whatever, you kind of lose that. And so it's like shifting to, okay, who are the friends that, I really want to make that time with? And then as you're growing and shifting in life, what fills you up changes too. So, so that, that adds to that. So I'm kind of roundabout here with my answer, but I think for me personally, sometimes you have to create situations that where you can gather like-minded people. For example, I created a book club that is kind of centered around people who want to be intentional about growing personally and getting uncomfortable so that they can grow.
Right.
And so, because I have a hunger to do that, and I know other people out there do. And I know
Mm-hmm.
it's, we've just started with a very small group, and, perhaps it will grow, perhaps it won't. I don't know, but you have to start somewhere. So, but it's just cool to sit in a room, even if it's, 4 other people, but they want to be intentional about getting uncomfortable and growing. And that's cool. And that kind of thing fills me up. So, sometimes you have to go out and create those groups.
Mm.
And then, we started going to this thing at church, and there's nights where it's like, oh, I'm tired. I really just, but I remind myself, you always feel better when you leave there after you've been.
That's
So
right.
just staying committed, even when you're tired or don't necessarily feel up to it. If you know it fills you up, then go, because it's where you need to be. So.
Mm. So amazing. I'm telling you, the community part, I had never respected it, for sure. But in the work that I do now for the last 2 years, 3 years, it's another one of these revelations that how could you not, just thrive in a community that's doing similar things. It doesn't have to be the exact same things that they're challenged by, right? So,
Yeah.
well, count me in for your book club, unless men are not allowed.
Yes,
I'm not
no,
sure.
I would love it. Please.
I'm an author too, as you know. So
yes, so we will add yours to the mix, but it's Thursday night, so this
not
Thursday.
my book, but me part of the club.
Yeah, no. But yeah. The other thing is too, I think everybody suffers from imposter syndrome, and in some way or another, me definitely included in that category. And
Me too.
yeah. And so even going, putting myself in real estate groups too, where, I realize I'm kind of a newcomer to the game, even though I'm older. So I look like I've probably been in it a long time, but, I know I haven't. And so it's that insecurity that we all have, when you go to these things. But that's the one thing that I think, by doing intentional things, working on our input, it can give us that confidence to at least talk to that insecurity and say, no, you do belong. You belong. And
Yes.
And so, I don't know. I think that whenever you're struggling, focus on your input and not necessarily your output, and usually that will help you out of that space.
Well, I needed that. I needed to hear that today. So.
Oh, I'm glad.
Just. I mean, I talk about it all the time, inner outer alignment, and it starts here, not outside. But something in my mind just hit me there. So, thank you for that moment.
Sure.
So well said. So yeah, I as I said, I have a newfound respect for community as well. Like, I would say, oh, I can do this. I don't need anybody to do this, and that's just such a. And then somebody holding you accountable, somebody who cares for you in a different way, and then you're there to, you create either a mastermind or some kind of a group. I mean, yours is a book club.
Yeah.
There could be so many different ways that people can express themselves
and hiring
become
a coach.
part of it.
Hiring a coach is another way to have somebody hold you accountable for the things that you say you want to do or change or grow or expand or what have you. It's all easy to do that and set those goals for ourselves. But for someone like me, I know I work better when I have that accountability. And I know you and I talked about that, before, but I think that that's a piece a lot of people aren't aware of, or, don't understand the benefits of that. And, before we even met, I told you I had hired a coach in real estate, and for that specific reason, I wanted accountability on the things that I'm not good at to help me make myself be better at, and things of that nature. So scary is all. It's scary, but it's
all scary.
a good scary.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, as one of my mentors says, if you're scared, then that's what you should do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're scared. Do it afraid. Do it afraid. Because it's all here. We're not going to take anything with you.
Exactly.
It's just short life.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for that plug for coaching as well. So
oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, is there anything you'd like to share with the audience that maybe nobody knows about you?
Oh gosh.
I mean, no big secrets, but just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I would just say that just do the thing. I just go back to that. Like, if you have that knowledge inside that you can be doing more, go do more, because it's the most rewarding thing. Because when you start doing more and you realize you can, you're like, wow, what else can I do? What else can I do? And it can be the biggest gift in the world. I know it has been for me. These past 2 years have just been amazing. So, yeah. And I've done it all afraid, by the way. So,
well, I could tell. Of course, you have. It's none of this is straightforward and easy. No road to growth is comfortable. So yeah. Well, so I honor you and I thank you for being on this, short little podcast here with us. For those of you, by the way, so where can they find you? We'll have all the details of where can they find you in the show notes. But do you need people to reach you in a different place than?
Yeah, that would be amazing. If they could follow me at Kim Molloy, Molloy, on Instagram and on YouTube. You can find me, Kim Molloy, there. Well, actually, it's on Hilton Head Island. And also, if you can, I have 2 YouTube channels. But I would so appreciate the follows. That would be amazing.
Yes, and for those of you looking to move to this piece of heaven in this,
I would love to help you.
Earth. I know. So you know who to call. And last time we met, or the one time we met, some lady walked by and said, "That's the best agent in this town." And I didn't know you've only been at it for 2 years. It's like, wow, that's such a compliment. Okay. So that shows your ability to connect with people and really focus on them and what they're looking for. So you're a great listener. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's
all right. Well,
it's a privilege, and I appreciate you having me today so much. I really, really
thank you for being here. I mean, so touched, and just to get to know you, a little bit better is such a great honor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to talking to you tomorrow on my podcast.
Whoa, we'll do that. All right. Thanks so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.